What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed yet and you like videos about prepping, survival, self-reliance, and other related stuff, then be sure to subscribe, turn notifications, and be notified each time that I upload a new video. Today's video topic is going to be last minute prepping 48 hours before Shtf. We're going to be looking at a hypothetical situation in this video, whereas that we have a 48-hour warning before a massive EMP strike, or actually several, happens to the United States and knocks out the power grid and communications. And we're going to be talking about what we need to be doing, or what we should be doing if we had that prior warning. And in the order I think we should be carrying out these things that we're talking about in this video. Actually, you should be doing most of these, or actually all these things now, instead of waiting until the last possible minute. But we're going to look at it this way to kind of make this video more interesting, hopefully. So we have prior warning of 48 hours before this attack actually happens, and we know what's going to happen, and it's going to knock out the power grid and communications. And we have this 48-hour window to get prepared or to top off our preparedness as best as we possibly can. If you already have preps, you would still get do these things, or at least the majority of these things, to top off your preps and to put yourself in an even better position than what you already are, because no one is ever fully completely prepared. We all keep prepping all the time, keep adding to our stockpile, keep adding to our skills and things. So a lot of these things you will still yet be able to do to top off your preps, or if you thought you were in a great position, you could just sit back and wait for it to happen, I guess. But this is pretty much geared for people who hasn't done a lot of prepping yet, who may have just started prepping, and this is what I think that they should be doing if they had a prior warning of something like this actually happening. And the first thing is to withdraw your cash out of the banks. Not financial advice. Remember, this is a hypothetical situation. We're just looking at this as a prepping exercise. But number one is to withdraw your cash out of the banks, because if this EMP attack happens, and we know it's going to in this scenario, then the banks will go down. You won't be able to get your money out of the banks. So you need to go in as quickly as possible and withdraw everything you can withdraw out of the bank, because when this happens, everything you have is going to pretty much disappear. So you want to go in and take all that cash out. Plus, you're going to need this cash to buy some more preps and do some more things here that's on my list. So it's important to go as quickly as you can and withdraw your cash out of the banks, because you want to get there before bank runs happen and things like that. So go to the bank and get all of your cash, all of your resources that you can possibly get out of that bank, out of that bank. Now, they may put up an argument or a fight trying to keep you from getting your money out of the bank, but do what you can to withdraw everything that you can out of your bank account and have that cash in hand, because you're going to need that right now. And guys, the next thing I would do, or number two, is I would check my water supply. I would see what I had, and I would fill up any empty containers that I had on hand full of water, clean drinking water. I would fill up my bathtub to the top and have anything I could gather up to put water in filled full of water before this happened. If you have any jugs that are half empty, fill those on up. If you have empty water bottles and things like that you bought and put in the trash, get those out of the trash and fill those up. Even milk jugs and things like that can be cleaned out and filled up. I don't recommend milk jugs for long-term storage, but right now we know in 48 hours this is going to happen, shut down the power grid and water supplies and things like that. So those used milk jugs you have, if you have any laying around, can be cleaned out and filled with water. Anything that'll hold water, I would fill that up and get that ready. And if you have water fillers and things like that, that's also great. We'll talk about that here down the list. But make sure you have all your containers filled full of water. Every tub you have, everything that hold water, I would fill that full as I can get that, because water is very important. Without water, you're dead. So fill up everything you have full and get that ready before this happens. Number three is food storage. I would take the cash I got out of the bank, and I would go as quick as I could to the nearest supermarket, and I would buy all the canned food, all the canned meats, canned vegetables, canned fruits, the canned meals like soups and beef stew and things like that, chicken noodle soup and everything like that. Those meals in a can, I would buy those. I would buy things like rice, beans, flour, cooking oil, hard candies and things like that, to have as much food storage as I possibly could. And I would get as much of that as I possibly could afford to buy and carry out of the store, and try to build that stockpile up. And this actually is a good idea even if you are prepping and have been prepping for a long time and are already stocked up. Now, you don't want to do this if it's going to be dangerous to do this, in which if everyone else knew there was something major going to happen, it could be dangerous. So I would, if I had my stocks already stockpiled and it was dangerous to go out, I would just stay home and not do this. But we're looking at this like you haven't been prepping and you haven't done anything real, they don't have any stockpiles on hand. So you're trying to do this all within 48 hours. Like I said, I would go as quick as possible to the supermarket and I would stock up on as much canned foods as I possibly could. Flour, cornmeal, sugar, beans, rice, cooking oil, and all the canned foods you can put in your carts and get those out and get those foods home because you're going to need that. And guys, number 4, after I left the supermarket with my food stockpile, I would stop and fill my vehicles up with gasoline. Any containers that you have, you could take those with you before you went to the store and fill those up also. Fill up everything you can fill up that you have to store gasoline in, but you definitely want to top off your fuel storage in your automobiles. Now, a lot of people will say that's a bad advice because an EMP happens, all the automobiles won't be running any longer. That's not necessarily the case. There's been research and studies done where most vehicles hit with the EMP will shut down, but they will start right back up. So just because an EMP happens to a vehicle doesn't mean it's not going to be able to start back up or actually operate any longer. So I would err on the side of caution and fill that full of gasoline and fill up any other containers you have full also, because you're going to need that for other purposes. And guys, number 5 is medical supplies. You want to try to put back as much of your prescription medicines as you possibly can. Now, that's going to be impossible for most cases, but if you can get an appointment with your doctor to see that doctor, that nurse practitioner, very quickly, you can get in and get a prescription and get to the pharmacy to get that filled to top off your prescriptions. That would be a great situation to be in. It's not going to be possible for most people because they don't want to see you that every 3 months. They don't want to write you over 3 months prescriptions for your prescription medications. So that kind of puts a bind on what you can actually do here. So there's companies like Jace Medical that you can order from, but now, you have 48 hours, so it's not possible to do that. But if you need to right now, I'm going to put a plug here for this because it's so important. You can contact Jace Medical and get a consultation, get a prescription, and get that medication shipped to you, a year's supply. You can also get antibiotics and things like that shipped right to your door. So that's a definite recommended thing to do, in my opinion, especially if you have prescription medications that you depend on to keep you alive. If the grid goes down, and in this hypothetical situation we're talking about here, it's definitely going to go down in 48 hours, and what medications you have is what you have. So it's important to be able to stock up beforehand, and the only way I know to do that actually is with Jace Medical. I'll put a link in the description below. You can go check Jace Medical out. I have a code there that you can use, the code Creekmore 10, and that will get you $10 off. But check Jace Medical out and get your prescription medications topped off with that year's supply through Jace Medical. And guys, number 6 is alternative cooking methods. You want to try to figure out how you're going to cook, because after this EMP strike happens, the power grid's going to go down. So obviously your electric range is going to stop working. So you got to figure out, how you're going to heat up your food, how you're going to cook. If you have camping supplies and things like that, more than likely you have, a Coleman camping stove, for example. So you want to stock up on fuel for that. If you don't have that, try to get one of those, because those are great to cook with in a pinch. But you want to figure out how you're going to cook and stock up on your fuel to do that. And one of the most easiest ways to cook is, for most people, and to actually go purchase right now in this 48-hour period, would be a camping stove, like a Coleman camping stove, and get as many of those 1 pound propane cylinders that you can and stock up on those. There's other ones that you can get also, and they work good too. But just figure out how you're going to cook and stock up on fuel to actually cook with. Now, you can cook outside an open fire, but it's going to attract attention, and you might not want attention. More than likely you wouldn't, especially right now when the power grid goes down and most people are trying to figure out what to do. If you're out cooking and you're outside, that smell is going to travel a long ways. Smoke's going to travel a long way, so it could definitely give away your position. This might not be an issue depending on where you are in the situation that we're in and how far deep it is into the situation that we're talking about here, but it's something to definitely think about. So I think having a good cooking stove, a good camp stove with plenty of fuel is definitely recommended and something you should get within this 48-hour period if you haven't done so already, if you don't have it already put back. And most people will have, especially living in the country, will have, one of these propane cooking stoves, these Coleman stoves. However, most don't have a whole lot of fuel put back, maybe 1 or 2 cylinders put back. That's not going to be enough. You want to stock up on as many as you can, as quickly as you possibly can, and have those on hand to cook with. And guys, number 7, you want to check your emergency gear, like your flashlights, make sure they're working and things like that, your portable radios. And if you don't have those already, you want to try to get, a radio. For example, you want to get a small battery-powered radio, preferably one that has like a little solar panel on top and it cranks also. That way you have different options of powering that radio to get information from. Now, if there's a EMP technology communications out, it's going to be difficult to get anything from the United States on AM or FM radio. However, if you can get one that has AM and FM and shortwave, then that shortwave will allow you to get signals from a lot longer distance because of the way the signal carries. So you might be able to get information from, another country to find out what's going on, find out news, information, and things like that. So check your radios. If you don't have one, then you want to try to get the best one you can. If all you can get is an AM FM radio that's battery powered, then get that, because it beats nothing, because something might come back up and go to hear something eventually. However, if you can get that shortwave also, that's definitely a huge plus. Check your lights. Make sure you have a good flashlight, not just one. You want to have several. If you just have one, then you want to pick up several more because you're going to need those. Another thing that I think is important that a lot of people overlook when it comes to lighting is a headlamp. If you can get a couple of headlamps to use, that's great too, because you might need to have your hands free to do something else and have a headlamp on. That way you can actually keep that out of your hands, have your hands free, instead use that headlamp to see what you need to be seen to get done, what you need to get done. So I think it's one thing people overlooks a lot is those headlamps. And again, get the best one you can afford, because you don't want to be trying to buy junk and want something that just breaks down after you use it one time. So check off your lights and top off what you need. Get, a good headlamp, some extra flashlights if you don't have some already, and get a good portable, battery-powered AM and FM, and hopefully shortwave radio to be able to gather information. And guys, number 8, you want to look at your home security. Look at ways people could get into your house and try to harden those areas up. You want to check your firearms. Hopefully you have guns and know how to use those. If you don't, go out and purchase something to be able to use to defend yourself with. If you haven't had a lot of training with firearms, then more likely you're not going to have anything. So if you have to go out and buy something, you might want to go out and get, if you can find it in this 48-hour period, hopefully you can. But you want to get something simple to use, like, a double-action revolver, for example, a double-barrel shotgun, 12-gauge or 20-gauge shotgun, or even a single-barrel shotgun, something simple and easy to use that don't require, magazines and things like that, because those can get complicated for people who don't know anything about firearms. You want to keep it simple. So if you don't have any skills, don't have any training, or are very little, then you want to get something like, a Smith & Wesson revolver, Ruger SP101, Taurus revolver you can find. You get a 38 revolver or larger, 38 37 Magnum. 37 Magnum is actually a lot better because you can use 38 special ammunition in that, plus the 37 Magnum ammunition in the same handgun, so it gives more versatility. So if you haven't practiced, aren't skilled with firearms, or just very little, get a revolver and get something like a double-barrel shotgun, or even a single-shot break-open shotgun that's simple to use, but still yet pretty effective. You can use that quickly without a whole lot of training, actually. Training is great, but if you don't have it in 48 hours, you're not going to be able to get it. So keep it simple. And if you have training, you have firearms, you want to make sure all those are in working order. You want to know where those are. You don't want to have those locked in a safe somewhere. You want to have those on you, because this is going to happen, right? So you want to make sure your magazines are all topped off, your web gear is ready to go, ready to grab at a moment's notice and put on, and things like that. Check your security. You want to put, like you have a driveway alarm, for example, and it takes batteries. You want to make sure you put new batteries in that. You want to maybe board your windows up, especially the ones that are most vulnerable. But you also want to have, a way to see. So you might want to have a slot cut in that so you can see out that window when it's boarded up. You might want to board it up behind your curtains on the inside, put the curtains in the front with a small opening where you can see out. That way it don't look like it's boarded up, because that could actually draw attention. If you look like it's an empty house that's just boarded up or something like that, it might draw unwanted attention. So just look at your home security and do what you can to increase the home security in that 48-hour period. And guys, number 9 is backup power. If you live in the country, then most people will have, or a lot of people will have, a gasoline-powered generator, and that's great. And I talked about a minute ago stockpiling all the gasoline you could stockpile. You also want to stockpile things like oil and things like that to keep that generator running efficiently. However, if you don't have one, go out and purchase whatever you can find, because they're going to definitely be needed, and it definitely increases your preparedness to have a gasoline-powered generator. Now, if you can get something like the small Honda generators, those are great. I have one of those, and that thing is quiet, and it sips fuel, and it's never failed. A great little generator. And if you can have both, a gasoline-powered generator plus a solar generator with solar panels, and that is definitely the best way to go. But trying to find, a solar-powered generator in most locations in 48-hour period and get that to your home is going to be very difficult. But more than likely, you might be able to find, a gasoline-powered generator to be able to purchase that, especially if you have this prior knowledge. That will go quickly. So you need to act on this as quickly as possible. Guys, take a look at your backup power. And like I said, gasoline-powered generator is good if you can find one of those, if you can get that. And if you can have, like I said, both the gasoline-powered generator and the solar generator, that is good. A good stockpile of batteries, fuel to keep those generators running and things like that, and you'll be much better off than most people will be. And guys, number 10, you want to protect your electronics, of course, because this is going to be an EMP attack. So you want to have your important electronics not plugged into the grid. Like if you have a police scanner, for example, you want to unplug that from the grid, and you want to take that and put it in a Faraday bag or a homemade Faraday cage. I have an article on my website that talks about how to do this, and I'll link to it in the description box below so you can go learn how to build, a Faraday cage. You can also buy Faraday bags. So take everything that you have as electronic that you want to save and put it in that Faraday bag. For example, if you have two-way radios, you want to have those in that. That way, the EMP doesn't have a chance to actually affect that, and it might not, depending on, the situation and everything. What's going to be affected the most is electronics that are plugged in to the grid. That's what's going to be affected the most. However, things that like handheld radios, two-way radios, and things like that could definitely be affected. So it's important to have Faraday bags, Faraday cage, and put those in that now before this EMP attack happens. And guys, number 11 on my list is to gather information. You want to go online, because it's still working right now, because it hasn't happened yet. You still have a few hours left. You want to go online, you want to listen to the radio or the TV and try to get all the information that you can about what's going on right now. You also want to get things like maps for your local area, for example, that we can find water and things like that, because a good map will show big lakes and rivers and streams and ponds and things. You can know where you are and know where those are. You should know this stuff already, but most people don't, actually, unfortunately. So having good maps of your location is good. Doing research beforehand, listening to the news, listening to the radio, shortwave, online, to find out what's going on, because you have all the knowledge when this does happen that you can possibly gather up. You also want to gather up things like magazines that you read, because you will need new reading material. You might want to put back, some novels and things like that to be able to read, some storybooks to read to your children and things. A good Bible, we should have it already, but, put back information, gather information. And guys, number 12 is mental preparedness. This is the last thing on the list. It's not the least important thing on the list, but I put it last because you need supplies, first, and it takes time to get that, so get those supplies and stuff first. If you knew this was coming, obviously, like we're talking about in this scenario, mental preparedness. You want to pray. You want to thank God for what you was able to gather up. You want to ask God for protection, and you want to get prepared mentally for what's going to happen. You want to be mentally strong, and for what you may have to do in order to survive through this and to lead your family through this. So mental preparedness is something to definitely look into and to strive for every day. But now we know this is going to happen in this scenario within a few hours now. So you want to be prepared for this mentally. You don't want to be running around, I'm scared to death. And that's what prepping is good for, to keep you from doing that and making bad decisions, because if you're not mentally prepared, not mentally strong, you make bad decisions, you do things that can get you killed. It definitely affects your situational awareness and things like that. So be mentally prepared for what's going to happen. I mean, if you need to use a firearm, for example, to protect your family, that takes a huge mental toll on just about everyone. So you want to try to get your mind ready for that and know that you may have to do that, unfortunately. And just the stress of knowing that everything's going to go down, everything's going to crash in the situation would be very, very strenuous mentally. So you want to pray a lot. You might want to put some books back to read about, mental preparedness and things like that to help you through. A good Bible, for example, to read. And it's just going to be difficult. It really is. It's going to be really, really difficult. And it's going to be impossible to prepare your mind for everything, but do the best you can. And one of the best ways to do that, I think, is through the power of prayer. If you liked the video and found it useful, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. And the Creekmore Matter, and I'll see you all in the next video, hopefully.